Hey guys, so one of the biggest questions that we get and the most challenging things people have with layering is simply how to determine what's convex and what's concave. And while they both remove weight, they both remove weight in different ways. So a convex layer means that it's just going to be cut at 90 degrees from the shape of the head, and a convex layer is a consistent removal of weight, meaning that every piece of hair that you cut is going to be the same length from the scalp as it was to where it was cut. Where a concave layer is going to be an increased removal of length. So meaning that the layer is going to increase as it moves down the head shape because your elevation increased. So 90 degrees creates a convex layer. Anything above 90 degrees will create a concave layer. Now you can still cut things at 90 degrees and change your cutting line, which will also change the effect of the layer. So meaning that if you just hold the hair at 90 degrees or the yarn, but your scissors aren't parallel to your head shape and they're working this way, it's going to create a longer length of layer on the outside, which is going to in turn create a concave layer. But in its simplest form, it's just an increase in elevation between the two. So to help us look at how these two can be different, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this yarn and I'm going to elevate it up. So on my right hand side, I'm going to be cutting more of a concave layer. On the left hand side, it's going to be more convex. Now I'm going to use this center string really as my guide, not really, but as my guide for both sides. So I'm just picking the length that I want to create. Now on the right hand side of my doll, everything's going to come up to number 1. So I'm going to be increasing the amount of elevation or lift that I place on every piece of string. I'm going to try to keep all of that in my fingers all the way through so I can create a consistent amount of tension on this because this yarn will stretch. If I drop it and re-elevate it every time, I'll put a little bit of stretch on there and I can create an inconsistent amount of length between the section just due to my tension. So it's a lot like real hair. And now the red, just drop my green guy though. So bring it into here. And as you can see, this is really starting to come further and further over to reach into my cutting line and to reach where my guide is at. So when I let this go, even though I cut all of this string to the same length, the string that's on the outside is much longer actually than the string that's in the center because of how far it had to travel. Now when I look at it in this plane, it's even, but when it falls down to the side, there's going to be a difference in how it falls. Meaning that I have my orange, green, red, green, blue, red. This little blue guy goes somewhere in the center. So when you're looking at this, there's a farther gap between each length as it moves its way down, which is going to create more movement in the hair because the ends of the hair are farther apart. So now let's do it on this side. And we'll take a look. So this is going to be my guide for this side too, but the biggest difference here is I need to cut at 90 degrees from where it lives. So I'm going to have to move the guide off its base in order to cut this hair at 90 degrees where it lives. Right? So leave that out. Now I move this down and into here. So because I spaced these out a little bit, I'm going to have to move my guide a little bit further off base in order to cut that. But it'd be the same as if you're following the round of the head. Now I'm going to move it down to the side and out to the side. So what's happening here is because I'm moving my guide off its base and I'm cutting the hair at 90 degrees, it's creating every piece of hair, and this is a uniform length. So the orange piece at the very top is the same length as the green, is the same length as the red, is the same length as the blue, and then the red as it continues down. What happens with this is we do create a uniform length, but we also will end up losing some length all the way around. So the biggest difference in these two is a concave layer, because I'm increasing my elevation, will allow you to start protecting length on the bottom of the haircut. Where convex, if I just follow it around and I don't mind the hairline, I'm going to end up taking significant length off. That's generally why we have people stop cutting hair below the parietal ridge, because that hair below the parietal ridge is typically going to create the base or the outline of your haircut. But if you extend it past it, this is where you start running into challenges. So when I approach a layer, the first thing that I ask myself is, what kind of weight removal do I want? Then the second thing am I protecting the length, or am I okay with the perimeter? So typically in the Paul Mitchell schools, when we have you start a haircut, this is why we'll have you If we're cutting a layer that's more convex, that's why we'll ask you to create an outline, because that's going to help determine your length of layer and then how you can work your way down the head shape. If you're not concerned about the overall, if you are concerned about the overall length and you want to protect it, then you can use more elevation. So we have any amount of elevation that we want in a layer, 90 degrees or 90 degrees or higher. We just need to choose the right elevation for the right effect. So I hope this answers some questions you guys had about a convex versus a concave. And as always, thanks for tuning in.